iPhone 15 is Apple's base model flagship iPhone, and then over here we have Samsung's newer, going more premium A line, Galaxy A55 to be exact. Let's go ahead and see which one could come out on top here. So we'll begin with a boot up in 3, 2, and go, and see which one could get there first. Now keep in mind, on the left we do have ourselves 6 gigabytes of RAM. You have to go Pro to get the 8 GB RAM, and then on the right we do have 8 gigabytes of RAM as well, which is higher than that of the iPhone 15. But we also have the Exynos 1480, that is a 4 nanometer CPU, and the iPhone, being the more premium phone, does turn on faster. Now if you're wondering why am I doing this unfair comparison, it's because a lot of people have been saying, well, Samsung is basically going more flagship with this premium build, but how much better have they gotten the performance? That's what I want to find out for just everyday usage. All right, so looking at the face unlock, the iPhone 15 is a very fast and snappy, reliable face unlock, and just like the other iPhones, very good. It also works pretty well in dark lit situations, so I like that. Now the Galaxy A55 over here, I missed it because I was blocking the mic was blocking my face. Over here, the A55, if you look at it, it takes a second sometimes, like it's not super fast. I did try to fool it with a picture, I wasn't able to, so that's good, but I still wouldn't count on this as my main secure method, but pretty slow there to use that face unlock. Now the fingerprint sensor also, if you don't hold it long enough, you can miss this pretty frequently. I also have to be honest with you, I find this fingerprint sensor way less reliable than the S24. It's just slower and it's just not as quick. Once you get the hang of it though, it's pretty good. But overall, you can still probably unlock this like this if you're not looking. But I generally think the 15's unlocking method is a little snappier just because of the slowness of the A55 here. So definitely pretty decent, nice to have those options, but the iPhone's a little quicker, I think. They're running iOS 17.4.1 and in the area of kind of going through the operating system. While 60 Hertz is pretty choppy looking by comparison to a 120 Hertz panel, it still runs pretty flawlessly here on the iPhone 15. Everything is consistent, even if it's not the smoothest look of a 120 Hertz. So I don't really have major complaints there. Now, the Galaxy A55, I really am impressed that you get a super smooth 120 Hertz panel at this price point. Also having all these Samsung features, I think it's a really nice touch. If we go to display here, you'll see the adaptive motion. The problem though is if you go into standard, it just gets horrible. It doesn't look very good. But keep it, I mean, I don't know why you would ever want to. I would just keep it here all the day. And Good Lock allows me to cycle through these home screens. If you're wondering, how are you going all the way through? My Samsung doesn't do that. You can do that with Good Lock. Generally speaking though, I would say the Samsung with the 120 Hertz on the home screens looks a little snappier, smoother, and faster than that of the iPhone 15. But sometimes it can get a little bit choppy due to its slower processor. All right, so everything is closed out for both phones. Let's go ahead and see what happens here. Let's go into weather, and you can see clearly that was the iPhone 15. I like how the iPhone weather app kind of like looks. It's very simple to read. Samsung's though, I kind of like how they show you what to wear and what's going on with that little person right there. It kind of changes every day depending on the weather. Let's go into App Store versus Play Store. You can compare App Store, Play Store, different platform. Yes, I don't care. Like I just did. I just compared them. You can see the iPhone did launch that faster. We'll go into games and you'll see, I think that was the iPhone. Let's go over here and swipe out. You can see the animation's pretty good on the A55 for its price. Let's go into Groupon. And keep in mind though that the Galaxy A55, I'm gonna rerun that one. The Galaxy A55 is around $450, so it's several $100s less than the iPhone. And I'm talking US prices. I know in other countries it's a little more, but I'm talking US prices. That's where I'm from, and that's what I'm talking about when I say that. So you'll have to do the conversion for yourself, depending on where you're at. Generally speaking though, the animations look pretty good. Was that the A55? I think it was. Last year I did the A54 versus the iPhone 14, and people were saying, You know, the A54 does enough for daily use. Personally, I wasn't a fan of the A54. I think it was a little too slow. But this A55 with the One UI 6.1 on board, the improved 4nm Exynos 1480, while not my favorite CPU, it's doing okay, for sure. It's probably on the level of a flagship phone from maybe, which app was I just in? Maybe a few years ago. We were in X. Let's go on to eBay from a few years ago. You'll see faster there on eBay, and in some scenarios, it's loading apps faster. That was faster on iPhone than the iPhone. Let's go out of here. So these kind of have the opposite effect. Let's go ahead and turn that down. These have the opposite effect. With the iPhone 15, you're getting a slower display, but a faster processor. With the Samsung, what you're getting is a slower processor with a faster refresh display. So they kind of got the opposite effect here. You'll see, boom, there is the iPhone and here is the Samsung. So Samsung's slower there as expected, but not by enough to really change your life. Let's go into Dead Trigger 2. Some people say, you know, what does it matter? I don't care about 2 seconds. It doesn't matter. Well, it kind of does, especially if you're paying the iPhone 15 prices. Like, you better get some blazing fast performance. Let's go into Temple Run 2 as Apple demands a higher price tag. But you'll see over here which one's going to win this one out. The iPhone 15 technically should be winning out in games for sure. And then I accidentally clicked the A55 first there. But even on the more flagship phones, the games usually are pretty well optimized for iPhones. They can even beat some premium Samsung phones. So this isn't telling me much here. Day to day, what I can tell you, I've been using A54 for a few days. I'm going to give you the full review in about a week. I'm still doing photos and stuff, but we have inconsistent weather where I'm at. So some days it's raining and I'm not taking some nasty rain photos. So give me a few more days. I should have a full review. But I'm noticing the performance here, it's just much improved over last year. Let's hit the guest account here. And Free Fire launched similarly, but I had to hit guest on the iPhone. Let's go into Hill Climb 2. And you'll see that Hill Climb 2 faster than iPhone. So the iPhone's winning here in games, showing it's definitely more powerful. But if you just are noticing, the Samsung is doing pretty good for what it is. It's doing pretty good. It's got pretty nice animations. It's got pretty decent performance. A lot of people say, well, why don't I just go get an old flagship? Simple. You want a new phone, new battery, and you just don't want to go look for a scratched up, beat up phone and take a chance. There is other ways to get around that, like certified refurbished and stuff like that. But you know, that is a good option. A 2-year-old flagship, probably still a better option than the A55. But for some people, they still just want the cheaper phone. They don't care. So it's good that we have options, whether you want one or not. Let's go into 3D Mark, because there are people that do want one, or else they wouldn't keep making this phone. Faster on the left. Let's go into Geekbench 6. Faster on the right by a mile. But keep in mind, it's not always just about performance. Look at the display size for less money than the iPhone 15. And that's also an OLED, a Super AMOLED display. So there's other value propositions other than just the performance here, but this is a speed test. And I would say overall, a lot of apps were quicker, snappier in the beginning of the A55, but the iPhone took over at the end with the games. So the iPhone technically, I think, faster here to open some more heavier stuff, but the animations are still snappy in certain areas. And certain times, the A55 is going to feel snappier. Also, it takes better advantage of its display by using pop view modes and split screen options. So it's still a really decent option here. But here's where Apple's going to strike back, and here's why I love the iOS experience. The buttery smooth reload performance. And I don't do this on the day-to-day if you're wondering. Well, nobody does that. No. But when I keep my apps open and I got to swipe between them, it keeps them open. Like in reality, I'm going to go like this and then pop something open and go like this and just kind of be multitasking one app at a time. That's kind of why I really like this smooth performance. Not necessarily because I'm doing this every day, all day. Let's go into Starbucks. This is just for testing purposes. We'll go into Twitter or X, but look at this. Even on a 60 hertz, while the animation not as butter, still offering you plenty of performance here. So very happy. Flawless there, even with the 6 gigs of RAM on the 15. Now the Samsung A55 has been pretty nice for me. Even better so far than the A54, but I want to see how the RAM management does here. That first animation looked kind of choppy there. Okay, so what I'm noticing is holding the apps just fine, although it looks a little bit, I'm not gonna say, I don't know what to call it. It just kind of like stutters a little. Like when you open it up, I don't know if you could see it. Reload there, and this is where you're gonna see your less than premium phone right here. Reload here on Twitter or X. Again, this is not gonna change your life or anything, but you could see just the way it looks. And I'm not trying to be biased, I'm just trying to tell you what I'm experiencing here. I still would prefer to use the A55 over the 15 in a lot of areas, honestly. It has more, it has the same zoom, but it has a bigger display, has multitasking, has more fun features. So there are areas I would rather use this phone than the iPhone 15. Let's go over here and we can kind of see how it looks when we swipe through them. Pretty good. You can also change these, the way these windows look right here in Good Lock as well. So that's pretty cool. Let's go all the way back to weather. You can see a reload there. So there are times when this thing will reload a little bit more, even with 8 gigs of RAM. Also, there's a deep sleep mode. If you don't enable that, you're gonna, if you have that enabled, you're gonna have a lot of reloads. All right, the final Geekbench scores are in, and we have a 2,600 on the single. Now take a look at the A55. That more than doubles it. Double this will be around 2,300. This is more than doubling that on that score. Also, if you take a look at the multi-core score, it looks like we have a double performance as well on the iPhone 15 once again. Let's go ahead and check that math there. 3166 times 2. Yeah, more than double the score on the iPhone 15. So let's go ahead and run a 3D Mark before we get up out of here. We're going to run a 3D Mark Extreme. It's about a 1-minute test to test the graphical performance. And I'll be back with the frame rates and how they perform. So definitely you can see CPU wise, the 15, as you would expect, much better. But in that real world testing, when we were kind of scrolling through, the iPhone 15 doesn't feel way ahead. And that's mostly due to this having a 120 hertz that boosts it a little bit. And this having the good chip allows this to feel very quick, but kind of is held back a little by 60 hertz in terms of overall sheer performance feel. I'll be back when they're done. All right, so let's see what they did with the Wildlife Extreme score. So, oh my goodness, 16 FPS, tripling the 5.61. A55 scoring better than 15% of devices. It's down there. 61% on the iPhone. So everything I said about its performance, well, it's down the drain here, especially in the GPU. If you want a really good gaming phone, this is going to beat the A55. But in terms of just the daily performance, that's where the A55 is still good. Big screen, really good in daily usage. But when you push it, that's where it'll start to show its stuff. And I think those scores are really going to come into effect if you start playing things like PUBG, Call of Duty, stuff like that. Casual games, like I showed a few in this video, they won't really choke anything up, and for everyday use this will be fine. But it makes me wonder, how good will this perform in 3 or 4 years? I know the iPhone 15 will perform really good at that time, but 60 hertz though, I don't know. Anyway, that's gonna wrap it up here for me with the iPhone 15 versus the A55. Clearly the 15 with the victory, but I think the real conclusion I'm coming to from this video over last year is that the A55 is performing better. It feels a little smoother, has better animations as it should, and it feels more premium for sure. So it's a nice step up from A54. Still not reaching, near flagship. We might have to go for a S23 FE, S24 FE to be more competitive. But overall, it's a nice upgrade from last year's A54. And I just wanted to see how it performed next to a flagship. So thumbs up if you enjoyed this budget versus premium comparison. If not, thumbs down. I really don't care either way. It's really up to you. It is YouTube. And consider subscribing for more. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.